I do like what you're doing here. Um, Now, I do have some suggestions to help you out. One of the things is I do think the character might need to be a little bit smaller. Okay. So one of the things I'll probably do is I click on the first layer of the character. I hold down the shift key and I click on the last layer and I can do edit free transform. And in this case, well, I don't get the resizing handles. I want to keep it proportional, so I'm just going to go up here and change this to probably 75 and the width height 75. And that's going to give us a little bit more room to work with. Okay. And I'm going to press my enter key, so especially with my text with that. Now, I really, I understand what you're trying to do with the flooring. Here's what I've done. I'm going to hide this rectangle. I'm going to duplicate your striped background. Okay. I'm going to move it down so it matches up. Let me zoom out just a little bit. Zoom out. I want to see that bottom portion because then what I'll do, just resizing it up. Okay. Now what I want to do is then once I'm going to do is I'm going to do edit transform perspective. Take the bottom corner and just drag it out. It's going to create that floor for you. I think it'd be an interesting effect to work with that. Now, typically, as it gets farther closer to the wall, it gets a little darker. So, one of the things you do is, sometimes you put shading back here in the back. So, a lot of times people, what they'll do is they'll select, I'll do a control click here. If you're on a Mac, command click. I'm going to add a new layer right above it. Take my gradient tool. Add a little subtle gradient. Sometimes I'll change the blending mode to multiply, just to make sure it blends with the colors. And then I adjust the opacity down a little bit. You know, definitely something to work with on that. Now, with that said, with your cast shadow, when you reduce the scale of the character, you probably have to reduce the scale of the shadow. But the shadow is not quite like a shadow. Shadow is supposed to be blurry. So the first thing I want to do is I want to go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, 15 pixels. That's good. I'm going to add a mask, and then I'm going to use the gradient tool. I'm going to go black to white, and as it gets farther away, it basically should dissipate, for that. Okay, so now onto the text. I almost want Flippin' and Food closer together, and I want Fred a little bit larger so the name of the character stands out a little bit more. Now it looks like you put this on all in one layer. What I probably would do is I would separate these into 3 layers. Okay, so like in this case, food. I don't have this font, but let me go ahead and see how it substitutes that. Let me do this real quick. Let me just change this to a thicker font. Okay. Now, with that said, I'm going to go in, create a new layer with food. And then I'm going to do the same thing for Fred. I'll just have to move it out of the way. Now, so what you do, that's interesting. You could do a rectangle like that. But what I'm thinking that we do here Let me just reduce the size. You bring this closer, and then Fred is going to be larger so it stands out. Now, if you want to apply a clipping, the image there, that's fine as well. I can duplicate those layers and then I can create that clipping mask. So that's easy to do. But when you put it on separate layers, you get more control. And like the styling, the shading, you can select this layer here and you go up to layer style, copy layer style. Then you go to the layer that you want and you just go up to layer style and paste it. So it's going to take that same styling for that. What might be nice if you do a little research, if you type in, all I do is ice cream style Photoshop, there's some different examples, and it might be something a little bit more interesting to go in and apply that kind of relates to your character. And so, like for one, this is a layer style that I can actually work with, and you download it and you can load it into Photoshop by opening up your styles panel. You go up here to the triangle or this little four lines. You choose load styles, and I load that style in. And here, as you can see, I apply the style. It creates a kind of like the waffle cone look. Maybe the coloring is not the greatest, the shadowing effect with that, maybe it's too dark, but that's where you can come into the styles over here, and I look at, I can come in and make my changes where I need to. So here, inner glow is set to black, but here I'm just going to increase it up to a lighter gray color, and you can see it makes a totally different change. So something to think about, um, because you can go in, you just take whatever you layer, and what's really nice about this is you got all these little bit different styles that you can apply, you know, and it's great. It's a fun little thing to find. Now, some of the stuff you can create yourself. So, like this, they might give you it's a tutorial that tells you step by step on how to create it, and so you can do that from scratch, and that might be something to do as well.